Hi, I'm going to go ahead and go over a couple examples from the Lesson 7 notes from Friday. So we talked about multiplying, dividing rational expressions. So I'll do one example of each of those, and then we also talked about adding and subtracting. So you can find the full notes posted in Schoology with an answer key. I'm just going to go through a couple to kind of highlight what we learned. So when you multiply rational expressions, you're going to follow the same rules that we do when we multiply regular fractions. So what we're going to do, though, is we're going to factor any numerators and denominators that are factorable. Then we're going to cross out common factors. Okay, so I'm actually going to take a look at B to explain this because B is a little bit more challenging than A. So we're going to start by factoring any numerators and denominators that are factorable. So x squared minus 2x plus 4. I can't think of two numbers that multiply to 4 and add to give me negative 2. So that's not factorable. Okay, I notice on the bottom that I can take out an x, and I'm left with x cubed plus 8. Okay, so, and then I can factor that further. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite my first numerator, which cannot be factored. And then I'm going to factor x cubed plus 8 into x plus 2 times x squared minus 2x plus 4. So that's using that sum of cubes factoring pattern. And then 4 minus x squared. I'm going to factor that into 2 plus x times 2 minus x. And that's using the difference of squares factoring pattern. And then on the bottom here, I can take out a 2 and I get x minus 2. Okay, so the idea here, when you're multiplying rationals, you can cross out factors that appear in the numerator that also appear in the denominator. So this x squared minus 2x plus 4 is being multiplied by 2 plus x and 2 minus x. So I can cross this out with the factor on the bottom because it's a factor. Okay, now notice this is, I'm going to write this as x plus 2, and I'm going to write this as negative x plus 2. Okay. So what I want you to notice is that x plus 2 can be canceled out with this 2 plus x, okay? And I also want you to notice we have a negative x plus 2 on the top, and we have an x minus 2 on the bottom, okay? So the key here is that these x's are opposites, and the 2's are also opposites. And so I can cross these factors out, but I have to replace it with a negative 1. It's like 4 divided by negative 4 is negative 1. Negative 12 divided by 12 is negative 1. If you divide something by its opposite, you get negative 1. Okay, so now I look at what I'm left with. Okay, I know there's kind of a lot of work here, but what you're left with on the top is just a negative 1. And if you kind of sift through the bottom, you just get a 2x. Okay, and so that is your final answer. So when you multiply, you factor everything you can, and then you cancel out any common factors, okay? Now, when you divide fractions, okay, we start by thinking of the rule keep, change, flip, okay? And that's a reminder that when you are working with division, okay, you actually change it to a multiplication problem in the very first step. So I keep the first fraction the same, I change the division to multiplication, and then I flip the second fraction. And now we're going to follow the same steps that we did in the previous problem. We're going to factor everything we can, and then we're going to cross out common factors. Okay, so there's a lot of factoring in this second half of the unit. So if you can remember how to factor, you should be in really good shape. Okay, so I'm going to start by factoring by grouping for this first set of factors. Okay, I'm going to actually do my work right here. I'm going to take out an x squared, and I get x plus 4. Then I'm going to take out a 2, and I get x plus 4. And then I'm going to take out an x plus 4, and I get x squared plus 2. Okay, so when I factor this first numerator, I get x plus 4 times x squared plus 2. Okay, on the bottom, two numbers that multiply to 8 and add to 6. I get x plus 2 times x plus 4. And then this is difference of squares, x plus 2 times x minus 2. Okay, and then if you try to factor by grouping here, the problem is that this is not going to be factorable by grouping. You're going to get x squared times x plus 4, and then an x minus 6. Okay, so that doesn't mean that there aren't any factors. It just means that grouping is not going to work. So what you're going to do instead, and this is a first semester topic, okay, you're going to go ahead and take this expression in the denominator and you're going to type it in your graphing calculator. Okay, so just this expression only. We're going to try and see if there are real zeros. Okay, so we're going to use this expression and we're going to use our calculator to look for real zeros. If there's real zeros, we can create factors. So you're going to go to y equals and you're going to type in x cubed plus 4x squared plus x minus 6. Okay, and when you look at your graph, it appears that there are real zeros at -3, -2, and +1. Okay, we can confirm that looking at our table. Okay, so there are indeed real zeros at -3, -2, and +1. Okay, so that means that I can create factors for my denominator, x plus 3, x plus 2, and x minus 1. Okay, and now I can go ahead and I can cancel out. I have an x plus 2 on the top and an x plus 2 on the bottom. I have an x plus 4 on the top and I have an x plus 4 on the bottom. Okay, I don't have any other common factors that appear once on the top and once on the bottom, so I just multiply my remaining factors, x squared plus 2 times x minus 2, over, I still have an x plus 2 on the bottom, an x plus 3, and an x minus 1. Okay, and then I can go ahead and stop there. Okay, and then I'm also going to do one example of subtracting. So when you add and subtract fractions, you have to have a common denominator. Okay, so you can use the answer key posted in Schoology just to kind of remind you how to add and subtract fractions. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do 3b. It's a little bit more challenging than 3a, so you can look at the key for a. So for 3b, to find the common denominator, okay, if you have any factors that are shared or that appear once in either denominator, you have to include it in your common denominator. So I have a factor of x plus 6 and I have a factor of x minus 2. Okay, so I have to include an x plus 6 in my common denominator and I have to include an x minus 2 in my common denominator. Okay, it's kind of like adding 1/2 and 1/3. They don't have any factors in common, 2 and 3 other than 1. So how do we find the common denominator? We multiply 2 times 3. So my common denominator here is going to be x plus 6 times x minus 2. Okay, I'm going to put the 4 back on top and the 8 back on top. And now I have to adjust my numerators. So my numerator started as x plus 6. I multiplied that by x minus 2. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. Over here, I started with x minus 2. I multiplied by x plus 6. So I have to multiply the top by x plus 6. Okay, now you got to be a little careful. So the rule with adding and subtracting is you find a common denominator. Okay, you adjust your numerators. Then you keep the denominator the same and you combine your numerators. So I'm going to simplify first to get 4x minus 8 here and 8x plus 48 here, okay? And what you have to be careful of is that you need to subtract the 8x and you have to subtract the 48, okay? So you end up with 4x minus 8x is negative 4x, and then negative 8 minus 48 is negative 56. Okay, you could take out a negative 4, you would get x plus 14. That's not going to cancel any of your factors in the denominator, so you could just leave your answer like this. Okay, so this video is meant to supplement the Lesson 7 notes and answer key that are posted in Schoology. So hopefully that was helpful.